Kids House Kids, it's Teacher Erin, and today I'm going to read to you out of the Bible the parable of the sower. And you might have heard of this before as the parable of the rocky soil or something like that, but I'm just going to read part of it, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what it means and how we can think about this story in our own lives. Okay? So this is out of Matthew chapter 13, and it says, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it, while all the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables, which are stories, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seed. Now this doesn't mean sew like you're sewing a dress or sewing fabric or sewing face masks, right? It means putting seed into the dirt and hoping that they sprout and become plants and crops and things like that. A farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path. The birds came and ate it up. Some of the seeds fell on rocky places where it didn't have much soil. Soil is dirt, right? The seeds that fell on the rocky places sprouted. They sprang up quickly. But because the dirt there wasn't very much of it, it was shallow. When the sun came up, the plants got kind of burned up because they didn't have any roots. They withered, which means they died. There weren't any real strong roots to them, so they were too hot, and they weren't able to live, and they weren't able to grow into actual plants. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew and choked the plants. Still, other seed fell on good soil, and we're going to talk about good soil today. Fell on good soil where it produced a crop, 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. So that means if the farmer put in one seed, then he got like 100 plants out of that one seed. Kind of cool, right? And why? Because it fell in that good soil. So good soil has good nutrients in it, and the plants are really happy in that. The seeds can sprout, and then they can grow roots. And then if they have roots, then they have a good foundation. And then when the rains come, it doesn't wash them away, and the birds can't peck them away. And so the farmer was able to get a lot of plants just from the seeds that fell on the good soil. The disciples, that means his friends and followers, they came to him and said, why do you speak to the people in parables? Like, basically the disciples are saying, okay, nice story about the seeds. Why are you telling us this? What's the point? And Jesus says this, the knowledge, like the understanding of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. What he means is, I'm here to tell you some really great, true stuff that's going to really help you in your life. But if people aren't willing to listen, then they're not going to understand it. They're not going to be able to have that knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven. And so I'm curious, you guys, what would you say are the secrets of the kingdom of heaven? I think when I think about the kingdom of heaven, I think about love. I think about everlasting peace. I think about joy in our hearts. I think about peace in our homes. I think about peace and wellness in our community. And I think all of those things are rooted, just like the plants, are rooted in love for each other and love for God. So when he says the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, I think he's talking about like how special it is to be a follower of Jesus and to understand how much God loves us. So there's more to this scripture, and you can read more with your families if you want. But I think the important thing is, if we think about growing love as our goal, right? If the kingdom of heaven is all about love, and loving others and loving God and changing our world through love, then if we think about ourselves as farmers, what are we growing? We want to grow love. And how do we do that? Well, we have to start with good soil. So let's go into my garden and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about good soil. Okay, see those boxes right there, right behind me? Those are going to be our vegetable gardens. So nothing growing in them yet. We just built them last week. And the boys, Wesley and Will, put them together with their dad. And then we have been working on getting them filled. And I want to show you, that's the part I want to show you today, is what we're putting into our boxes to make sure that we can grow some really yummy, healthy vegetables. Okay, so we're mixing together basically 3 things. Maybe it's more like 4. But in here, we have just regular old dirt, like plain old dirt that we got out of the yard. And in here, this is a mixture of compost and cow poop. Yeah, so vegetable plants and gardens love cow poop. Gross, right? But it's like, it's special, right? It's not just like, oh, they just went out into the field and picked up all the cow poop. They have this whole way of doing it, like where they let it sit out in the sun for a while, and so all the like poopiness isn't in there anymore, so it's not super yucky. It's slightly stinky, but it's not super yucky. So yeah, so we have the dirt, the mixture of compost and cow poop, and then we have this stuff, which is called peat moss. And that's going to help our soil not dry out. Like when it gets really, really hot, you know, sometimes it gets super, super hot where we live. And so let me show you what each of these look like in just a minute. All right, so this is just the dirt, like regular old dirt. And what do you see when you look in there? What do you guys see? I see some little bit of roots from other plants that maybe were growing in it. I see some rocks. But it's not like super rocky. Like there are some rocks in here, but it'll be okay. Like I think the roots of our plants will be able to get around most of those rocks. So there's the dirt. And then we have our mixture. This also has some of that peat moss in it too, but it's mostly compost and cow poops. That's why I'm using gloves, because I don't want to have stinky hands later, right? I'll show you the compost too. I have that in a separate bin. And then this is our peat moss. And this, I think I told you, it helps the roots stay moist on really hot days. So, looks good, right? And so we're gonna mix this. We mix this, and we mix this, and we mix this, to get this. Pretty cool, right? So now, taking you through my yard, I'm going to show you, we have some compost that we got from the city a while ago. I'm going to show this to you. It looks black, doesn't it? Look at that. And guess what it's made out of? Some of you might know this, because remember we were doing some composting at Kid's house? This is just like beautiful compost. This has been, so this is bits of old vegetable scraps. Like, you know when you eat an apple and you don't eat the core but you throw the core away? Well, you can put it aside and make a little pile of compost with your vegetable scraps and your fruit scraps. And you can add dry leaves, even eggshells, all kinds of stuff like that. And you just let it sit and sit and sit and wait and wait and wait, and it decomposes into this stuff, which some people call black gold, because it is so good for your soil and your garden. This is how we make good soil, like what Jesus was talking about in the parable. So what we want to do, just like how Jesus was talking about in the story, is we want to have good soil. And if you imagine, just for a minute, imagine your heart is like a garden bed, right? Just like this one right here. And we want to think about what kinds of things are we building our heart's soil with. We can imagine that maybe we're putting in compost because we know that that's really good for the soil. Well, what would be an example of really good stuff to put in your soil, like compost and peat moss and manure, cow poops? I'm thinking that we could think about it like a peaceful heart or a peaceful attitude, a helpful attitude. When we look to do good things for others, that is a way of building up the good soil in our hearts, so that as seeds are planted and as God plants seeds in our heart, then that love, which is what the kingdom of heaven is all about, that love can grow and flourish and just take off like wild, right? Like just beautiful vines. And I'll show you some examples of plants and flowers that have grown in really good soil. I'll take you on a little tour of my yard here, because right now there isn't anything growing yet in this guy because we just filled it with dirt yesterday. But I'll show you some of the other spots, okay? Here I've planted some seeds. This is leftover parsley from last year and it's still growing. He's real happy in there. Planted some seeds in here for some chives, but they haven't sprouted yet. And then I use these old egg cartons that are cardboard as my little seedling sprouters. And I put some good soil in there, and I've planted, I think it was chard and kale. And then here, oh, almost fell over. I have mint growing that died, but now it came back to life. Isn't that cool how that happens? And then in here, I planted some seeds. I don't think anything's coming up because I don't think I've given it enough time, but lo and behold, what are these little guys? I don't even remember what these are. I think they're a certain kind of lettuce, maybe. See, look at that. Pretty cool, right? And they're starting to sprout. As long as I water them, and make sure they get enough good sunshine and good stuff, and thankfully they're in good soil, I think we're gonna be doing well. This is, over here, I forget what it's called, but these flowers, oh man, the hummingbirds love these flowers. They visit every single day. This is the bush where my kitty likes to hide and hang out under. And these are the roses. Now, I didn't plant these. These were here when we moved to this house. But look how beautiful, and look at that. I don't know if you see who I see there. Oh, okay, see you later. Isn't it beautiful? The garden flourishes. All these roses, I'm sure, were planted in good soil. Ooh, can you smell it? Yeah. So beautiful. And then over here, this is one of my very favorite things. We're going to come across here. And this is the orange tree. And look at those beautiful orange blossoms. And then there's a lemon tree too. Look at all those lemons. Ready for some lemonade? And that's a little tour of my garden. Oh, and I forgot to mention one other thing that we're going to put in the dirt in those beds back there. There's already some in there, but we're going to try to add earthworms, because when the worms poop, oh man, the plants go crazy for when the worms poop. That's just like, that's their favorite thing ever. What is it with poop? Gross, right? Well, that's just kind of how the way God made it happen. The way the way He made it all work is that everything has a purpose and everything has a reason. So that's kind of cool. So just want to remind you, make sure that in the garden of your heart, you're sowing goodness and kindness, empathy, helpfulness, and a loving spirit, so that we can grow amazing, beautiful flowers that show the world God's love. Just like these guys. Bye guys, miss you. Hope to see you soon. Sometimes I feel like I just don't know what to do when everything is changing and everything feels new. Can I find God's love when I feel weird or scared? Yes, there's a way to remember that God's always there. I breathe in, I breathe out, that's what love is all about. I say hi, how are you? Can I be a friend to you? I receive, then I give, oh, and that's when it begins. I take time, stop and see all the goodness around me. Let's sing it again. Sometimes I feel like I just don't know what to do when everything is changing and everything feels new. Can I find God's love when I feel weird or scared? Yes, there's a way to remember that God's always there. I breathe in, I breathe out. I breathe in, I breathe out. That's what love is all about. I say hi, how are you? Can I be a friend to you? I receive, then I give, oh, and that's when it begins. I take time, stop and see all the goodness around me. I breathe in, I breathe out, that's what love is all about. I say hi, how are you? Can I be a friend to you? I receive, then I give, oh, and that's when it begins. I take time to stop and see all the goodness around me. I breathe in, I breathe out, that's what love is all about. Oh boy, it's like a music video. Make it zoom through.